Hey everyone, Legend of Guiga here, and welcome to the first video tier list that I think anyone has made about Annihilation. And we're going to do this pre-1.9 speaking. So I've got all the 37 classes here, and we're going to be talking about every single one of them in this video. I'm going to leave a timestamp for every single one as we talk about them. So if you look in the description, you can see which classes and where I'm talking about them, and you can click on it and see what I say about the class. You can skip to the end of the video and look at where all the classes fall as well, and take a screen cap so that you can have it for yourself. But basically, this isn't going to be 1 through 37, which classes are the best. This is going to be more of a, where do they fall compared to each other, which classes are better than others in general. It's like, say, I'll put Assassin over Civilian, for example. It's not really hard to think about that, but that's basically how it kind of works as well. We've also have this. I'm also using this as a tool right here. This will be especially good for the early classes that I talk about because there's not really anything to compare it with yet. We have to place them carefully compared to this, and then later on in the tier list, when we have lots of classes placed, we can start comparing and placing other ones relative to those. Also, we have this here. I'm going to be referencing roles a lot in the video. The offense role is actually kind of bloated, but there's like a lot of sub roles inside there, like ranged, invisibility, extra damage in fights, getting over defenses, stuff like that, mobility as well. Just all kinds of different things that you can compare them with. But, I mean, these roles aren't completely solid. As you can see, Mercenaries and offense, you could definitely put it in support and defense. You can put Immobilizer in defense if you really want to. You put Transporter and Riftwalker in the offense. These aren't completely, solid, but this is probably the best place to put them. Alright, so now that we have all that stuff out of the way, you can also go to a timestamp of those. So there will be like 39 timestamps. And so let's just go ahead and get started here. So Acrobat is a very strong class. You can use it in mid. You can, invade the mines with it as well. You can rush Nexus with it. It's overall a really safe class. You won't be dying with it if you know what you're doing. You can especially jump out of coastal mid. You could jump between the rocks over in canyon mid. It's decent over in Andorra mid and Cherokee mid, but you don't know. I mean, I'm going to be referencing the popular maps because those are the ones you're going to be seeing most often. Hamlet is also a good one, and not a lot of the other maps get play, which kind of sucks. So, I'm going to be referencing those maps because those are going to be 85% of your matches. Just to clarify. So, Acrobat will be falling up in S tier because of how safe it is and how powerful it can be early to late game. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the game, this class is still going to be powerful. There's no real drawback to it at all that I can see. And overall, it's just a really good class. Many people already knew this. It's usually the first class that you get. It's pretty easy to place it up in S tier. Something to keep in mind is that despite being an S tier, which usually warrants a nerf, so S and above is nerf, B and below is buff, that kind of zone. But despite this, it's very likely that the staff will leave this class alone because it's such an easy class to use, and it's very iconic for Annihilation to just have Acrobat with its no fall damage and its double jump with a 10-second cooldown. That makes it super safe. Overall, you shouldn't be worried about this class at all. If it does get nerfed, then, well, that stinks. That's too bad. But in general, it's going to be pretty safe to learn and use this class in general. So definitely probably the strongest pickup if you're going to buy a class in the entire tier list, because it's not really looking to get nerfed at all, and it's still a very good class. Alchemist. So Alchemist is kind of strange because some games it could do nothing, and some games it can do something. It's because of this class that you can get phase 2 invisibility, you can get splash potions of healing in phase 2, you can get basically anything you want in phase 2 except for strength, and that's about it. In the hands of someone great, it can be amazing. Sometimes it gives you bad luck. But the odds are generally in your favor when it comes to this class, because none of the ingredients are rare per se, except for strength. I would say this class is great for everything brewing except for strength and regen. I'm going to put it in A+ for now. I'm going between A and A+ for this class, but right now it seems like it's super strong. The brewing stand takes away a lot of gold that you'd have to farm up to get it. It's definitely useful when you're going for a Gapple rush as well, because it saves you tons of gold and time just getting some stuff. The only thing that's absent is the nether wart, but you can always switch to farmer for it. But still, the nether wart is missing, which kind of hurts the kit a lot. It could definitely, I'd say it'd be on the lower range of the A+ classes. It could be, it could be solidly in A+ if it gave you nether wart, but it just doesn't, which kind of sucks. And it's 5 gold to get nether wart every time you want to make a potion. So I mean, it's just, it's really good class. Don't get me wrong, but it could definitely be better if it had some other stuff in it. For now, I'm going to keep it at A+, because I'm not exactly sure at all. Actually, you know what? I'm going to knock it down to A right here. Simply because it just doesn't have some of the, it's very RNG based. It can be good or bad. I think it's actually pretty balanced. Probably then it would be a high range A class. So keep that in mind. Archer. Now, Archer is something I'm actually pretty sure about. It's going to belong in your A+ tier right here. Let me fix that. Alright. But Archer is going to be one of your best, is going to be one of your best ranged classes that you're going to go with in the game. You can sit at mid and just shoot people constantly. You can mine rush and shoot people into walls to kind of combo them. Defend base with it. You can poke people over at someone else's base with it. If you have a TP rush, this is perfect for defending it. Overall, Archer is also kind of safe as well because of the punch one, which kind of brings it up to A+. If it didn't have the punch one, I would totally put it at A tier. But because of the punch one, it's kind of, it's a little bit too safe, a little too annoying as well. The arrow drops are always nice because you basically never run out of arrows. You get power on every bow you get. It's better than Sniper, of course. If you're a good Pyro player and you know how to use the fire tier advantage, then it might not be as great as a Pyro shooting arrows with perhaps a power bow. Because trading fire for punch is usually the best option to go. But Archer is a really good class early game. Its only problem is that it doesn't scale to late very well. Because that 1 extra damage means a lot less when people start getting higher tiered armors. It's kind of the same problem as Warrior. Except warrior, you can kind of be up close and just constantly hitting people rather than just poking them. But yeah, that's about where I think it would stand. Assassin. I think Assassin, is actually pretty balanced at the moment. It's high skill cap to use because you have to not get hit while you're doing your leap. You also can't get caught by using your by sprinting, so it's kind of an interesting thing. You also have to choose to use it at the right time. The cooldown's not very long, but in general, Assassin is actually pretty balanced at the moment. You can kill people pretty good with it, but it kind of makes you... I'm pretty sure it makes you uninvisible or something like that. If you start hitting people around with it, because I think it's the combat tag that goes with it. But you can definitely leather rush as well. It's more of an aggressive mid invasion class, and a mine rush class sort of thing. You can also get to Nexus with it, but keep in mind that if someone's defending, you're probably screwed. You maybe get 1 or 2 hits, but in general, Assassin's not going to be the reason why your rush is a success. It's going to be if someone wasn't there defending and you were able to take advantage of it, or something else happens, Unless you can kill the rusher, then it's not going to be worth it going Assassin instead of, say, Handyman or Scout, because Scout can get to the Nexus faster and get more opportunities to get in, and Handyman can heal your Nexus. So, there's pros and cons to it, and that's kind of what makes it balanced at the moment. Bard was maybe A+ a while ago, I would think, but quickly it's become less popular over the years that Annihilation 2.0 has been out. In general, it's not a very strong class at the moment because of the radius of which it works and how it can't really travel up and down as easily. It's a good class in general. It's pretty good for effects, but it's limited to where you can use it. Like, each effect has a special place for you to put it at. Like, the transporter can be very useful with it. You place it at the transport and you get speed. You can place it at mid. You can place a weakness/slowness at base. It can somewhat function on its own. It's just kind of clunky to try and use. Like, place the buff box down, use the song, and try to fight someone with it. Because as soon as you're away from that buff box, you're a useless class, basically. And you only have one buff box, and you can leave it just, you end up having to leave it somewhere. So, in terms of PvP, you're just going to want to get your effects and then use it. After the fight, though, it's decent because you could get regeneration, which is very useful. But in general, it's just kind of, there's not a lot doing with it once you're away from the box. And when you're near the box, you're kind of limited to a small area of the battlefield, But, it's a decent mid class. It's just not as strong as maybe having an archer at mid instead. Like, I'd rather have 6 archers instead of 5 archers in a bard, because those it's not like those archers are gonna be walking into battle anytime soon. Berserker is actually another one of the balanced classes that we've seen, mostly because of its high skill cap and its potential coupled with the risk. If you're a really good player and you know how to use this class effectively, for example, by using the bow and getting preparation, then you can get to 15 hearts pretty easily, but those 15 hearts mean a lot less than you actually think, unless you're full diamond with regen and strength. So in general, very, very late game oriented class whenever you think about it. To get this class to its full potential, you'll probably need 2 to 3 minutes of preparation by getting bow materials. And even then, you still have to get kills to be able to increase your hearts. But in general, you know, the class is pretty balanced in overall. If 1.9 comes around and it has shields, it might be actually slightly easier to increase your hearts with this class. Because the shield could help you tank some hits and get extra kills because you're already preparing with your bow anyway. They also just to clarify, they did say that there was no cooldown on swinging in 1.9. So this class actually could be really good in 1.9 because of its Berserker ability to try and run in and start getting lots of hits on the enemy really fast. And also have the shield at the same exact time to kind of block damage. I don't know how they're going to implement shields exactly, if it's going to be in the shop, but Berserker is probably going to be on the upswing after the update. Just a heads up to everybody. Bloodmage. Now, Bloodmage is going to be the first class we're going to put in B tier on this tier list. We're going to be branching out to B tier. Main reason is radius, kind of like the Bard's problem, where it does take away 2 hearts. It gives the enemy wither, which kind of takes away another heart. But it is pretty underpowered when you think about it, because that's the only part of the kit that's useful. I don't know if it works to where you can still hit people with poison or not. I haven't actually seen it at all. It may be just so low of a chance that it doesn't work. But in terms of a passive, it's okay, but the ability really isn't terribly good at all. Right now it's just a worse Thor. Thor could do the same thing with just a click of a button, and this has to have somewhat of a damage over time effect as well. Late game against rushers, it is kind of good to use. Just sit in base and wait for that full diamond to walk in and just kind of blood mage them, corrupt them. That's the name of the ability. But in general, all other areas of the game, it's not gonna do much use for you at all. Builder. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put Builder up here before I start explaining. Building walls, the full advantage of it is not getting leather rushed as much early game, which can help you late game to give your team more time to get rid of rushers. It's a bigger deal than people might think it is, but nonetheless, it's a huge deal. Phase 1, you're going to want to build your walls. This class also has its obsidian, which is useful for obsidian swapper traps that people can get. In general, this class does decide a lot of games. If you have walls up, and the experience, it's kind of a nice touch to add to the class. The drops don't take very long at all. You can make a lot of different things with this class also. You can also make sky bridges. You can basically, anything that you can build, you can get out of this class, which kind of makes it very powerful in general. Because building things in Annihilation does a lot for your team because it can block off enemies or give your team an advantage in some way. But in general, no one really needs to know how powerful this is. You can put it at mid. You can put it basically anywhere you want. Anywhere that you can build kind of makes this class work. Those maps that are, that where the bases are kind of on the diagonal corner of it, those are the best maps to use it on. So like Coastal, Canyon, those maps, it's a lot easier to use Builder to kind of build a wall over your base. But in general, like Andorra and some of the other maps that are like Kingdom, that kind of have the 3-sided thing. You might not want to build walls as much over there. You might want to just make some, a few smaller walls to kind of block off your base a little bit. But it's a lot harder to build walls there to kind of counteract enemies. Civilian. Now, full disclosure, I was kind of fooled on where Civilian stood for a while because I had no idea that it didn't actually have a shovel in its kit. Instead, it just has a stone axe and a stone pickaxe, meaning that 2 classes overshadow it completely. Miner and Lumberjack both actually overshadow this class completely, and I don't know why you would need a stone axe at all. It just makes it go slightly faster. The stone pickaxe, however, can help new players to get iron, but if you are not a new player, then there's no reason you should use this class at all. I said I wasn't using the D tier, so I'm going to put this in C tier. I mean, you can use it in competitive because you could have a second miner, but no one plays competitive at all. And this is mostly about the actual Annihilation game, not competitive. So we're putting Civilian down there. I would definitely have a Bloodmage over a Civilian at this point. I guess you can put Civilian anywhere if you want. If you're rushing, I'd rather you go Handyman or a Miner. If you're mining iron or gold, I'd rather you go the other classes. Basically, it's kind of overshadowed in everything that it does, and its ability is pretty useless. The Craft-O-Matic is basically almost useless. If you're just sitting in like a cave that you dug, I guess, then you could use it. If you're sitting out at the battlefield and you need to make a quick iron sword, then sure. But, I don't think it's like D tier to where, this class might as well not exist, because, new players have to have some class to play as, but, I said I wasn't using D tier, so we're going to put it in the lowest tier possible. It's probably the worst class in the game, in all honesty. It doesn't have anything going for it. And I don't know why that buff was necessary, because it basically did nothing. Dasher. Dasher receiving a bit of a buff a while ago, where the ability will go further whenever you activate it, and when you go through walls, it doesn't hurt you until you actually finish going through. The hunger is still a problem, though. The hunger is still a huge problem with this class, and why not as many people play it as there probably should be. If they made the hunger regen go to full and they made it kind of faster, then this class could have some use to it. I get the cooldown and all that, but, right now Acrobat is just better in general because of the 10-second cooldown. It may not go through walls, but it can... it can still get lots of height with it. Dasher, though, if the hunger thing got fixed, it could easily be up there a bit more. It's definitely good for invading mines. It's probably the best way to use this class is invading mines. Invading bases, maybe not as much because the ability doesn't work in Nexus distances, unlike Acrobat and Scout. And mids, it's not exactly the best to use at mid. It depends which one you're talking about. Like if it's the Andorra Coliseum, you could possibly do it. Most other mids, though, you're wasting your time with this. You could just rather use Acrobat or Scout to kind of get out. But in general, it has a lot of great potential. I actually like the class a lot. I just wish the hunger would kind of get fixed a bit. And then that would help it out a lot. Alright, so Defender. Defender, honestly, in the early game it's a good class. Late game, I don't really think so as much. Like, the extra hearts and regen is decent if you can pair it with Diamond. But if you're a Defender, then your spawn kit is worthless late game. The Guardian's Pearl basically just kind of helps you get back to base faster. I don't know. In competitive environment, it's pretty good, but in general, in Annihilation, it's kind of balanced tier. I don't really know what else to say about it. The Guardian's Pearl, is a useless ability if you're just sitting in base. There's not really much else you can do around base whenever this is whenever you have to stay close to it. You could probably just go builder, get blocks, go defender, and then kind of build while you have Guardian's Pearl ready. I mean, that might be a valid tactic. You obviously can't go to any mines. You can't go outside the base. You're kind of isolated to it. In terms of PvP, it's very good whenever you're defending against leathers especially, but as soon as an iron enters the building and you have less armor, then you're probably screwed. Of course, you could always fight them twice by using the Guardian's Pearl and just teleporting there immediately, which could kind of help you out to win. In general, it depends on the situation. It's still a very good class and deserves to be an A tier, but nothing really else to say about it. It's just pick it up if you are a defender, but late game you probably want to go Immobilizer or someone else. Enchanter. Enchanter will be our first S+ class that we're going to place. Main reason, it's a bloated kit. You get so many different abilities with this kit, including the tankiness, which adds safety to sitting in gold mine, for example. The amount of experience points you get with this class is crazy. You can get multiple 30 enchant items in the same game and rush later on. If you don't die, then it's amazing to have just full enchanted diamond armor, diamond sword, and pickaxe to kind of go along with it. You only need 29 diamonds for mid. You need a good chunk of gold. So, you can figure out the math and find the perfect balance between using this class and minor class and kind of find a way to get gapples and get good gear alongside that and then end a game. And it's because of this potential to end the game so easily with this class that it deserves to be up at S+ as well. The double experience is a great passive. Its active ability, which gives you 1.5 times the XP for everyone around you, is also great. So if you're in a team, then this class is basically broken to the point of no return. And the extra enchant passive where you can go to base and get prot 2 armor before you go to mid is very good. Adds lots of layers of protection to you. You can keep trying to enchant stuff until you get everything at tier 2. Basically, if you're enchanting at all, go to this class. If you're farming anything at all past phase 1, then grab this class also. Very good at ending games as well. If you have your level 30 tankiness and you don't want to use it on anything, then run into someone's base with it and just watch the madness, Just very good class. Engineer. Speaking of used to be very good class. Speaking of, you guys want to see some shit? Because Engineer is horrible at the moment. Probably one of the worst classes in the game, and that is because the Bunker Buster takes 7 seconds to go off and can be disabled, so you could just waste your ability with it. Martyrdom basically does nothing as a passive. It just does half a heart. Rarely are you going to get someone down to half a heart and then take them out with Martyrdom. Its spawn kit, it has a stone sword, which is alright. But in general, you're only going to be using it, for example, at mid or at enemy bases. It's always a better idea to go Spider to get over walls if you're solo. If you're in a team, then maybe use Engineer. But in general, just bringing the right tool is actually just better than giving away your position with Engineer. Um, it can't really disable swapper traps anymore like it used to and be a counter to it. So, I mean, that's pretty much useless there. It can't rocket jump, knockback, or do extra damage with the explosion. So that aspect of it is completely broken. You know, it's just kind of... I don't know where it went, you know? Like, maybe the staff thought, oh yeah, so... And Dasher, you know, Dasher could get out of swapper traps, so we're going to take it away from Engineer. And then... maybe they looked at the Hunter rework and they thought, you know, people are going to want to rocket jump with Hunter because it's easier to do it with Hunter. So they took it off of Engineer, I guess. Like, I have no idea what the staff was thinking with this. It was probably the stupidest decision they made in Annihilation 2.0 was nerfing Engineer to the point of, you know, to where they're going to have to make a huge buff to it afterwards. It's just kind of... It's unfortunate that where this class went because the TNT was always so fun to use. But at the moment, it's going to be in your C tier with your civilian there. Farmer. Now, Farmer actually is... I'd rather have a Farmer than an Engineer, honestly. So, first of all, we're putting it up here in B tier. But... Farmer is useful for apples, it's useful for netherwort, and it's useful for gas tiers. So basically, if you have Alchemist and Farmer together, then you've got the entire package. You've got all of the effects laid out in front of you. You can get anything you want. Farmer's food stuff is also good to keep people's saturation up in general. If you put some chests around mid with bread in it, then your teammates won't have to eat melons every 5 seconds. Its ability is pretty good because it can, actually the active ability is probably the problem. Everything else is good. The active ability, it just heals food and doesn't really do much else at all. Now, Farmer was talked about on the forums getting a buff by the staff. The staff said that they were looking at buffing classes that have little use, so maybe, you know, we get an Engineer buff up in there, maybe some Bloodmage buffs, maybe they'll fix Dasher, but anyway, something that they were looking at was Farmer, and a lot of people, including myself, actually left some really good suggestions in there. I would definitely go check it out on the forums if you haven't. It's a huge deal because if Farmer gets this buff, then it could possibly move up to A tier or A plus somehow. And won't have to suffer down here in B tier with all the rest of the classes, you know. But that's basically the synopsis of it. You'll be sitting in base a lot, but in general, you don't play Farmer the entire game. You just use it for what you need, and then you switch off at the moment. Handyman. So Handyman only gets one ability, and that is to heal your Nexus whenever they damage other Nexuses. So here's a thought real quick. If people are defending, then this class is useless because they can just kill you. You have to be pretty good and sneaky to use this right. Not all maps can accommodate a Handyman. Most notably, you can probably use it on Hamlet quite a bit and Andorra. Those are the two maps that I've seen where Handyman is a decent class to use because people just don't defend. In general, you know, the amount of health that you heal back to a Nexus isn't going to be a huge deal unless you're in a clan group. It's definitely not useless, so I'm just going to put it up right over here in B tier. For what it's worth to get, you know, gold 3, I think it is, you need to get as a rank to unlock this class or something like that. For what it's worth, it's not really that worth it at all. In general, you're not going to be using Handyman very often if you're looking to win a game. If you're looking to just have some fun and see if you can get to like 80 points in Nexus damage, then you can use this class. But quite often, I have gone and rushed enemy Nexuses for like 10 damage, and none of them got heals at all, and it was phase 2. I mean, the percentage chances are really low, which kind of is what is hurting this class at the moment. I would hope that the staff is going to buff Handyman at some point to give it more chances to give Nexus points back. Definitely nothing crazy like 50% because that'd be kind of overpowered. But like, just give it some sort of buff to scale into late game better, because at the moment it's like a 7% chance, I think, in phase 5 to heal your Nexus, which is extremely low. In general, it's extremely low in the late game. I would probably scale that up along with the phase 2 a little bit as well. But in general, it's not very strong. It's better to just run in with minor and deal extra damage rather than maybe heal 2. If you get lucky, though, it can be alright, but, you know, you're most likely not getting lucky. Healer. Healer is going to be another one of your C tier classes that I'm going to put down here. The main reason, weakness and the amount of time you have to stay alive for it to come online. You can't really waste time in Annihilation staying alive as healer, because you can't really do anything else as healer. Sure, a decent tactic for it is in phase 2. You can farm iron or gold for your team by getting a pickaxe. But if you get ganked by someone, then you're dead, because you can't really run away from a scout or an assassin or an acrobat, for example. And those extra hearts don't really do much in a fight when you have weakness and you really can't find a way to kill them. You're going to probably want to gear out pretty well before starting using this class. And then you're going to want to sit in a mine and just farm up while your hearts get up. The class doesn't really come online at all until phase 3. And as soon as you die, then everything resets, and it's really sad. Its ability to heal is not really that good at all, in my opinion. You can just have a bard sitting at mid instead for regen, rather than wasting your hearts to kind of give some extra health to other people. This class, although this class is tanky, it doesn't get poked out very much from mid, so you can kind of stay there for a while longer. But bear in mind that while you're healing someone, you can get shot from elsewhere, and you could take more damage than you actually think that you are taking. So you got to be careful there. Healer definitely, in my opinion, is one of the classes that needs a huge buff to kind of see come back. It's not very balanced, in my opinion. It's just down there in that C tier, because there's a lot of other support classes that are better than a healer at the moment. Probably on the higher end of the C tier. You could almost put it in B tier if you wanted to, but at the moment I'm keeping it down there. Hunter. So this is another H class, and all of them actually suck right now. Hunter is it's kind of also like right in here, could be up or down, but I'm gonna put it down here. The main reason is because this is a 3D game, and you're placing a 3x3 trap on the ground, which people can easily figure out. There's no grass block disguise. The only way you're gonna find use out of this is with the wood or the stone disguise, putting it on the ground, since those blocks are kind of common. I understand you can kind of disguise it by putting blocks over it, but that's also blocking any way that they can actually trip it at all. None of the traps are actually useful at all if you think about that you have Wizard in the game also, that you can use to shoot slowness or shoot wither at people. And the traps are very clunky to use. Like, you put it on the ground, and you can't put another one on the ground for a long time. Like, it takes, you're like begging for someone to trip over it so that you can place another one somewhere else. Like, it's very infuriating to try and use. And as soon as you've placed your 3 traps in the best places, no one trips over them, and then you're basically stuck as a useless class until you change out, you know. So, I mean, and it doesn't always win you the fight also. If you're up against 2 people, only one person can trip it. So really, it's only good in 1v1 situations. It's not good for defending at all. because people likely aren't going to walk over it while trying to get over a wall, for example. Like Acrobat or Scout could just get over the wall. They're not going to try to run into base that way. It's not really good for mid either. Most of the bridges that go to any sort of mid is not usually 3x3 wide, and the system is pretty picky which places you can place the traps. They all have to be like full blocks, and even if it looks like a full block, if it's made of slabs, then you can't place it there either, which kind of sucks. But I mean, in general, this class isn't strong at all. It definitely belongs here in the C tier. Wait till they update to see where it goes. The old Hunter is probably better in general. Iceman. Iceman is situational, which is why I'm putting it here, and I never really see the slowness come up either. Never has an Iceman hit me and I got slowness to my memory. So, I mean, that's kind of a broken aspect of it. So, really, there is no passive to it. The only thing that it does is goes on water really easily, and not all maps have that on it to kind of do with the Iceman. It's, you know, if you're playing coastal, great. If you're playing canyon mid, great. Andorra in general is not that great anymore because of all the stuff in the water that they added. And Cherokee, just forget about it. You know, Hamlet, you can always parkour. You know, there's always something that blocks this class from being great. If the slowness was actually increased to where you can notice it, then yeah, maybe this class could make a higher area of the tier list. I don't think it really needs a buff or nerf. I think the main change that we're looking for is increasing the radius of the ice by 1, so that there isn't any glitches that happen, because it's about 6 wide, and you know, you can start glitching around inside of it. If you're underneath it, you can glitch on it if you try to sprint jump, which you can't. You know, you can definitely use like a ranged Iceman to keep people from getting to you. And you basically have the entire ocean to use as your ground to walk on while you're trying to shoot. I mean, you can definitely use it a lot, but it's not really as strong as coming to mid as like an archer, for example. Immobilizer. Now, Immobilizer is pretty balanced right now. You can't function by yourself, which is kind of the bad part of the class, but the great part is using it on enemies and making it to where your teammates can kill them. It used to be one of the worst classes, in my opinion, before, whenever you just basically stop the enemy and it's just like, okay, I'll wait, you know. But you can definitely use it at base and kill people really easily as a defender, which makes it kind of on par with the defender. I would say Immobilizer is the late game counterpart of the defender, where you can easily kill rushers that are iron or diamond with this, as long as you have a teammate with you. And defender, you can probably kill them by yourself in the early game if they're leather. But, you know, again, there are situations you can use it, there are situations you can't. Technically, you can use this class anywhere if you have a friend around. But in a 2v1, don't use this class at all. It's better to just travel around as something else that's stronger. There are definitely support classes that are better than this at the moment, but right now it stands at balanced. So yeah, there you go. Lumberjack. Now, Lumberjack, I would put in between A and A+ in general. Its early game is pretty good if you know how to use it. Its late game is not as great. You can definitely use it to whittle down some diamond armor if they're rushing, which kind of makes it a decent defense class. Its passive of getting extra wood isn't really worth it at all. The spawn kit is good because of the stone axe you can use for the coastal bridges, and other structures that may have some wood as its main block to be used. But its ability early game is super strong. I I really don't know which tier to place it in. I'm going to place it in A+, actually. I would say Lumberjack early game is about as strong as taking an Archer in the early game. Because you can take away armor in 3 to 4 hits, and that way you could, you can kind of compare it to Warrior in a way, where you need one less hit then, in that case, if you're using your ability. Make sure you pop the ability early before you start fighting, so that you don't have to worry about popping it in the middle of a fight, or and having to switch to your sword or something like that to start hitting. But yeah, I think that's about it, actually. Your passive can be used to build some really cheap walls, but in general, you're going to want Builder for that, because Builder is better in every way in building defenses than this class. But it's a pretty good pickup if you're looking for some fun in the early game. Mercenary. So this is actually, we're getting to the strong side of the tier list in general. So Mercenary is going to be up in your S tier right here. And the main reason is because it does that extra damage that anyone can deal. So in the early game it's decent. In the late game it's actually better because it scales really well. You can use it almost anywhere on the map. You can defend with it. You can invade mines with it. You can invade bases with it. You can go to mid. You can even sit around in your own mine and wait for someone to come in to kill them. So, I mean, the class is super strong. It might warrant a nerf at some point. You never know. Maybe this class will balance out soon enough, but a lot of people are using it right now. It has that added tankiness in the early game, which gives you an advantage over others. If you want to 1v1 people in the early game, then grab your pickaxe, get a few stone and some sticks, and then make yourself a wood sword, and that could basically win you most fights in the early game, except against warriors. But against any other PvP class at any other time, it wins most of the fights, except for other classes that are kind of on the S and S plus area. I would say it's probably near the bottom of the S tier classes. You could definitely confuse it with an A plus tier. But yeah, it's basically where I think that stands. Miner, we already kind of know the deal with Miner. In general, I think Enchanter's better, but Miner does make the entire game change whenever everyone can play it. So you can mine up a lot of iron in the early game and kind of ground yourself and start, doing lots of stuff as soon as you get your iron. You can use it in the gold mine instead of Enchanter, but you won't be getting those enchants. You can use it to make diamonds spawn faster while your team still controls mid. You can do a lot with the miner class, and the only main drawback though is its safety. If it had extra safety, for example, like if you had a certain amount of ores in your inventory, you get resistance or something like that, then it might be S plus. But because of the lack of safety, it can't really join Enchanter up there because you can die easily with this class. And since it's very early game focused, you're very susceptible to damage from other classes. So in general, as soon as you're done mining, switch off this class, but while you're still farming, it's a really good option. Pyro. Jeez. Pyro is going to be one of your top 3 PvP classes in the game, along with Acrobat and another class that starts with an S that I can't really remember right now. But anyway, Pyro, the reason Pyro is so powerful is because of the amount of ways you can use its fire. First of all, it's immune to it, which is a decent passive to begin with. Another passive aspect of it is that whenever you hit someone, they get hurt by fire, and all your arrows are lit with fire at all times, which can actually confuse people as you're trying to shoot, as you're trying to have a bow fight or a sniper duel with another player. So if you hit them with this class and they start getting on fire, it's harder for them to aim, and then their movement speed is kind of staggered a bit, so you can hit them again. And it actually creates a little bit of a better combo than Archer does at the moment. So that's kind of a thing to consider when you're thinking about this class. It also can cause fire in a radius, which is decent whenever there's a TP rush. But in general, the weakest thing about it is probably that ability that you have there. All other aspects of the class, though, it's very good. You can use it to win a lopsided duel against someone with better gear. Kind of derivative of Scout. But, in general, you're going to want this class over every other PvP class other than Acrobat and Scout at the moment. It's just really that good. I kind of hope this class gets some sort of nerf to its percentage chance of setting on fire. But for now, we're going to have to deal with it. It's going to be up there with your Acrobat. Riftwalker. Now, I think we already kind of know where Riftwalker goes, so I'm going to put it right here. In general, it's not strong at all. You're looking at your menu, right, and it shows all the distances of where people are, and you have to kind of guess where they are. In coordination, this class can be all right. Transporter is going to be your better half of this class. This class transports 3 people and gives you weakness. Transporter transports unlimited numbers of people for 5 minutes and doesn't give you anything, and actually gives the transporter experience. So I'm not a Riftwalker or Transporter player, but I know for a fact that this class is not very good at all whenever you consider that Transporter is way better. There's no PvP advantage with this class at all, except for maybe bringing 3 people to a certain person. In terms of travel, it can be faster than Scout, but you just don't know where you're going most of the time unless you're coordinating. So unless you're in a clan, kind of like the Handyman, don't use this class. Scorpio. Now, Scorpio is just a slightly better, it's a better swapper for sure. I don't think it can stand on the same layer as Acrobat and Pyro, so I'm going to put it in A+ tier for now. It's high skill cap. You don't always kill people whenever you hook them, but the cooldown is the shortest cooldown of any ability in the game. So you can kind of spam it at people and see if it hits them. It could be S tier if the fall damage worked on enemies, which it doesn't. Which it kind of makes it more fair that way at least. Void scorping is still a huge thing. You can scorp people off the edge. As long as they're not Acrobat or Scout, for example, then you could probably get them. Or Dasher, actually. I keep forgetting about Dasher. But you could use the ability anywhere, including at enemy bases. And it can be really frustrating to deal with if you're on the enemy team. But it's going to be one of your top 7 PvP classes to get whenever you're starting the game. It's definitely a great pickup as soon as you've taken Scout, Acrobat, and Pyro. Definitely go down and get that Scorpio. Okay. Alright. We've waited for 53 minutes for this, and we're finally here. Alright. So Scout. Once upon a time, Annihilation decided to release this new class called Scout. Or, I don't know if it's actually been there since the beginning, but I'm just making this up as I go along. And the class was just so OP that everybody died. The end. But basically what's happened to this class in the end is, it got nerfed. It didn't matter at all, because you still had its grapple, and people are still complaining about it. It's 2.5, 3 years later, and this class has never received a good nerf at all. But they're looking to nerf it, I guess. So I'm gonna place it down in D tier for now. No, all right, there you go. But it's definitely your best PvP class in the game. I'm not gonna put it in SS tier just because there's no other PvP class that I can really place in S plus tier to take a filler spot. Maybe you can consider Acrobat for S plus tier if Scout were to be in SS. But then you kind of have to place Pyro up there too because Acrobat and Pyro are kind of similar in its strength at the moment. And then the entire tier list would kind of just fall apart from there. So for the sake of keeping everything where it should be, I'm putting Scout up in S+. I don't think it can single-handedly decide a game, especially when there's like 20 of them running around the map. But definitely if you want to save your stuff and if you want to be completely 100% safe the entire game, no risk at all to you, just grab Scout, please. Or just don't, because I don't like seeing you. Get out. But, you know, there's a reason everyone plays it at the moment, and hopefully the nerf that it receives will, for once and for all, take it off of that top tier. It's been the best class in Annihilation for so long, and it's about time that something else takes its place. It'll probably be Acrobat if that's the case, because Annihilation 2.0 came out. Everyone freaked out over the Scout nerf that they started playing Acrobat, and then they look back and they're like, oh, wait a minute, that class is still broken. Let me be Scout again. You know? So, I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Sniper sucks. Like, actually really sucks a lot. It's not useless to where it could be put in C tier, but in general, you're looking at all of the phases of the game, and phase 1 really is the only time when you can use it. The stats will say that it is better than Archer in general whenever they're using the assassin arrow and you actually hit it. But not all your arrows are assassin arrows, and it scales. It's probably the worst class to scale into late game in the entire game, other than maybe Handyman, for example, because you can't switch the bow out and use a different bow with your assassin arrows. So the class just basically becomes an Acrobat without the jump and all the safety that comes with it late game. It's just basically a civilian with a bow late game, when you really think about it. You know, you can kind of put them at mid, you can put them at put them in the same areas as Archer, except not like the mine rushes or any of the other crazy stuff that you can do. It's just a bad class, don't buy it, you know. Hopefully they give that a buff. Spider's also not very good at all. I'm going to put it down here also. Again, Dasher's better for getting over walls, you know, or through walls. The web is very risky because enemies can climb on the web. Your cobwebs that you get are not extremely useful. You can use it for 1v1s to kind of trap someone inside of it. But other than that, you're probably just going to use it for string to get bows. In general, it also needs a buff. You can be on the edge of the void, and that kind of works. But you know, when you really think about the full perspective of everything, Dasher is going to be your better class to use, other than this one, even though it might need more food. Spider doesn't really get any other passive benefit that it can use to kind of help it out. You know, it's not very good at the moment. I'll just go ahead and say that. Spy is kind of on the underpowered side of things, but it's still near balanced. When you think about this class, you know, it has probably the worst spawn kit in the game, other than, like, it's probably the same one as Scout, I think, yeah, with the gold sword. Its invisibility lasts forever, but you only stay in one spot, and it takes a long time. And once again, time is vital in Annihilation because you only get about an hour for everything to work out, or less if you have a hacker in your game, which is something that's kind of new and upcoming and developing, is that there's a bunch of hackers in Annihilation now, and isn't that just lovely? But Spy is just, you know, a not as good version as Assassin in general. when you think about it. Just think about it that way. It's more defense heavy than your assassin. It's probably your less aggressive cousin of assassin, where you just kind of sit somewhere and wait. You can defend mines with this class. You can defend your mid base with this class. You can defend your base with this class. I don't really see the advantage it gives other than sneaking up on someone and getting a few extra hits. But, a lot of people will expect the spy defense, and as soon as they see it in chat, then it's kind of given away at this point. You can sneak into bases with it, but it takes a long time. Just bear that in mind. It's very high skill cap. You probably don't want to pick it up just yet. Wait till the update happens, and if it gets a buff, then pick it up. Succubus. Now, Succubus is also kind of on the not as strong side, mostly because you have to kind of switch from your attacks to kind of use it on people. Also, the lifesteal doesn't really work at all. They kind of took that away. And the class basically is very, clunky at the moment with the way you have to use it. It's like it kind of weighs you down, having to wait till they're low health and then using it. And if you mess it up, then you're dead. Definitely does not scale well into late game because you don't know what their health is on. You don't want to risk it at all. You can use it in most positions in the game, even defense really, because it's just, in general, a PvP class. Wherever people are, you're going to want to use it. But there is still the bug that needs to be really addressed in video form if people are watching this section. So the bug that comes with it is that I guess if the system is at all confused about the health of the enemy, so like if it's close to 4 hearts, maybe slightly over, maybe slightly under, then it just won't work for some reason. Like if you hit people 3 times with a stone sword and then use it, that's the easiest way to make the bug happen. Hit people 3 times with the stone sword, maybe even crit them with it, and then use the ability and see if it works. If it doesn't, then congratulations, you got the bug. Basically what happens is it kind of makes the sounds, doesn't kill them, and then puts the ability on cooldown. So it's like, congratulations, you made sounds happen, now you're dead. But yeah, the ability, in general, it's pretty useless when the ability's on its cooldown. If you can use it right, then you can get free gear from people that are better gear than you, so you could win lopsided duels. But it's just a worse Thor at the moment, kind of. I don't know where my other worst Thor was. Bloodmage, yeah, there it is. That's the other worst Thor that we've got lying around. Swapper is balanced pretty nicely, actually. The Obsidian Trap and the what else is it? The Wool Traps are pretty powerful, but this is an example of a class where it has such an overpowered ability or whatever, but the rest of the kit is complete trash, so it doesn't matter. Again, it's going to be another one of your... it's kind of a weird way it fits in. You can't really function by yourself. You have to wait and have preparation with it, and that's kind of the definition of most balanced classes, is that there's some preparation or catch to the class, and there's a high skill cap with the class also, and maybe a bit of luck involved. And whenever there's like some sort of catch, you have to make it work somehow, and so that's kind of how Swapper works also. Succubus could also fit in this boat, but it's not really as good at all as all the classes because of the bug. Until the bug is fixed, I'm not going to put it in A tier. I'm going to refuse to put it in A tier. But Swapper can be used anywhere on the map. You can't really use it invading other people. It's more of a defense-oriented class. So you could use it defending Nexus. You can defend it You can use it defending mines and mid base. You can use it to pick off iron or diamond players. It's just, the cooldown's also low enough to where you can use it on many people, but if it's a group, then you're kind of screwed there. If they have the right tool, they can get out. If they're dasher, they can also get out. So, there's a lot of cons to it, but it's a pretty powerful ability. So, without those cons, you could probably put it up in A+, but for now, it's staying there. We'll see what happens after the update. Also, furthermore, about the threads, we also kind of have confirmation that Spider is getting a change. Wizards might be getting a change. Sniper, I think someone said that it was getting a change. Not sure, though. Farmer's getting a change, and Transporter and Scout are getting nerfs, I think. So there you go. Thor. Thor is pretty balanced. What can you do with Thor? You can walk around the entire map wherever you want to go and just smite them, with your axe. It's just kind of what Thor does in Annihilation. You kind of walk around, you deal 2.5 hearts after a close fight, and then they're dead. This is way better than any of those other classes earlier that can win lopsided duels. There's not really any downside to the class. The radius is pretty nice. I like it. Overall, it's a good class. You could put it in A+. It's definitely on the higher end of all the classes that are kind of sitting in A at the moment. But right now, we're going to put it in A tier and kind of see where things go with it. I think it's still a really good class. I don't know if it's kind of as good as Scorpio yet. I haven't been able to run around and mess with it as much, but still very strong. Tinkerer, I'm going to put it on the underbalanced side at the moment. Right now, Annihilation is kind of, dependency based, and Tinkerer kind of takes away from that. Its speed isn't really anything special since scouts are everywhere, all over the place, and Bard could easily do the same thing. Let's see here. The only thing that really has going for it is the, the haste that you can put in mines, and the fact that you can get multiple power pads, so you can put haste in every single mine. But then at that point, you can't die, which actually really sucks. You can't die or switch classes at all, which really blows. If you could keep all that stuff there, like if you died and then all the stuff stayed, then man, this class would actually have good potential for it. It's kind of something that holds back a lot of classes. Like Transporter needs it, but I don't think Tinkerer needs it as much though. It's just kind of something that you want to have around, because Tinkerer can be pretty useful. If they added another effect, for example, then Tinkerer could be useful. But sometimes you kind of forget that it's a class because of how little it might do whenever you have scouts everywhere, and Tinkerer is just kind of sitting around mid, and you kind of walk over and it's just like, yeah, I got the effects, whatever. They're gone 30 seconds later. I don't know. I think it's about in the same area as Bard when you think about it. 'Cause Bard has more effects, lower radius. This class has less effects but longer time that it works. Transporter belongs in that A+ tier. This class could be the death of entire teams if you use it right, but a lot of the times, if the other team is dedicated to defending its nexus, then this class can get pooed on. Just be careful what you do with it, where you use it, stuff like that. Just be careful. I don't think there's really any dispute on where it should stand. It could be up here. It could be down here in some games. I think that's a good spot for it, though. It's definitely better than Riftwalker, so it could be up in this entire range, but I think kind of the middle ground would be A+. Vampire sucks, like real bad. So for 3/4 of the game or 2/3 of the game, you can't really do anything with it. It's useless. So move on from that. Other than that, it's a good sky-based killer, I guess. You can go up there, but if you fail, then you've got another 120 seconds to wait. The cooldown is extremely long. You could use it, I think I did the math, you could use it like 3 times a night. Maybe 4? If you use them all back to back, you use it 3 to 4 times a night. It could easily net you double and triple kills throughout your games. But in general, if you want to be this class, you're gonna have to wait quite a bit for your abilities to come off cooldown. Other than that, the resistance is decent at night. It can't function at all during the day. It actually penalizes you during the day, so it's worse than civilian during the day. But at night, it can be all right. The resistance definitely helps a little bit. Other than that, though, don't play this class at all. Warrior, I'd actually kind of put it on the same tier as Archer in a way. Alright, if I can place it. There it is. Alright. But, the extra damage surely isn't too shabby at all. You definitely want to play it every now and again because it can net you quite a bit of kills. I've used it a bit before, and it is very powerful. The icon for it is kind of odd since it's a stone sword, but I kind of think of it as like a tip for using it. Just like what was the other class that was on here that you could use? I'm trying to remember which one it was. I don't know. I forgot. But anyway, you want to grab a stone sword from the ground and from sticks. You want to make yourself a stone sword. You want to go out and you want to abuse it as much as possible. You have basically have a free iron sword, free diamond if you want to use frenzy. You kill people in 3 hits with this class early. Steal their iron. Throw it over the cliff if you want. I don't know. But it's very good for invading. Definitely use it as often as possible if you want to get kills. Also, that class won't be changing much at all, so it's pretty safe. Wizard's kind of slightly on the underbalanced side, kind of like these other classes. You can get some good use out of it with its effects, but it's kind of in the same area as most of the other effects classes are. It can self-rely on itself, which is really, really nice. But we're going to be placing that in that B+ tier. I would definitely prefer having a Thor around that can just hit for 2.5 instantaneously rather than a wizard with all these effects. The main problem is the cooldowns all mesh together, so you can't really switch spells and use it like a bard. Kind of a problem that some classes have. It's just kind of, there's a lot of weight to trying to figure out using it, But, it kind of belongs there in that B+ tier. You can use it in mid. You can use it defending mines. You could use it invading. It's not really much of a rush class or a base defend class, but you can use it anywhere other than the bases. That's kind of how you'd want to go about using it. Forget about using the fire spell anywhere where there's water. The freeze spell is decent, darkness spell isn't as good, and missile spell is probably the worst one. Wind spell is highly situational. You don't want people to just be sitting on the ground and you use it and it doesn't knock them back at all. Definitely use it on sky bridges, though. Best place to use it in general, but I don't know. highly situational whenever you want to use certain things. Usually you want to run around using the freeze spell to get a great PvP advantage, or if you want the fire spell, one of those two. Those would probably be your best bets. So that's going to do it for the entire tier list that we made here, everyone. I'm going to be making another one after Annihilation 3.0 comes out, and we get that 1.9 update. That tier list will also include all the new classes and all the changes that happens. We'll see how this update happens in the next few months. But this is going to be what the tier list kind of looks, everyone. These classes are the ones you're going to want every game. If you're farming, go Enchanter. If you're going to be attacking people and defending mid or invading, go Scout. These classes kind of make up the entire game, these two, if you want to think about it that way. These classes are going to fill another set of roles that you want to do. They're not going to be as strong. Your top 3 PvP classes are going to be Scout, Acrobat, and Pyro. Your top farming classes are going to be, we're going to leave out Miner. It's going to be your Enchanter and your Alchemist that you're going to want to pick up. Defense classes speaking, you're going to want Builder, Mercenary, Immobilizer, and Defender for that. These 2 tiers, A+ and A, are probably where we're going to want to see classes go in the future. Some of them have slight advantages to others, which makes the A+ tier happen, and then the A tier is going to be your balanced tier. B+ and below, you're probably going to want some changes to go along with them. Sometimes they can be frustrating to use, but looking at the trends in the tier list, everything seems to be trending down here towards this B+ tier, between A and B+, meaning that classes are kind of underbalanced at the moment. You can see that there are 14 classes in the B or B+ tier, 18 if you count C. So, 18 of the 37 are underneath the point of balance, not even including on the point balance. And then above it, there's only 12 classes up there, and you can only really count 7 of them as OP. But then again, Miner and Builder are kind of part of the game at this point, so there's really only 5 classes you're looking at messing around with. But don't really expect those S tier classes to get changed as much. As I said, Miner and Builder are part of the game now. You're mostly looking for Pyro and Mercenary to get some nerfs to it. Even though Mercenary is kind of at the bottom of that S tier, if there was an S-. An S+, those classes probably do need nerfs, but again, they won't be touching Enchanter, so that's probably your best deal along with Acrobat. Going forward, because they won't be touching those 2. So I guess that's going to be it for now. I'm going to leave timestamps for all the other classes. If you're watching this and you haven't seen any of the other analyses, then go ahead and go to your favorite class or whichever class you want to see, and go ahead and watch to your heart's content. So I'll see you guys next time.